All you tend to hear in Helldivers 2 is meta this, OP that, trash here, god tier there, and well, it can get annoying always following the same build path game after game. But what if the weapons we forgot about were actually not as bad as we thought? What if there are still uses for weapons with lower damage, benefits to lower mag size, and great synergy possible when you mix and match? Let's go through an adaptive build that's not going to be overpowered, but will get the job done, and in fact is a bit specialized in what it can do. The BR-14 adjudicator, I thought, was originally a horrible choice for a primary weapon, before it was changed to be fully automatic and moved to the assault rifle category. I didn't even try to use it after its rework because I didn't like the small magazine size and high recoil rate, nor did I find it useful in engagements. In fact, I'm sure most of us are under the same umbrella of thought that all assault rifles are basically underpowered and not worth using. Well, in order to make this weapon useful in actual combat, it's important to understand its weaknesses so we can build a kit around it. As it has pretty high damage for assault rifles with medium armor penetration, this makes it a great weapon for those of us who are too lazy to precisely aim at gaps in armor and instead buy for attacking the targets head on. Its low magazine size means constantly reloading, and constantly reloading means we'll need a lot of ammo for this bad boy. So, a supply backpack is a must-have. Heavy armored targets are going to be a problem, and since we don't really have a backpack slot, we're going to be limited to support weapons such as the Quasar, the E, the rail cannon, the flamethrower, and machine guns. Out of all of these, the least used would have to be the machine guns, which would also benefit from the supply backpack, and I'm honestly horrible at using the rail cannon, so that will be left for part 2 in the video if you enjoyed this roller coaster of a time. Let me know down below in the comments if that's something you would care to see. Alright, back to building our class. We have 2 more slots to choose for the stratagems, so another very unpopular choice would have to be the rocket pods. And finally, I will use the deployable shield since it's also very uncommon, but I'll interchange it with the HMG turret, and more importantly the precisional orbital strike, because I love that thing and no one uses it past like level 10. In fact, I did another video similar to this one, which I'll link at the end of the video, in which I used the most uncommon stratagems to see how viable they were, and honestly, it was a fun time, so check it out if this off-meta topic is what makes you happy. Alright, distracted a lot this video, sorry about that. So, since I will be fighting both Terminids and automatons, I'll probably switch some stratagems around a bit, but letting you know now that the machine gun will always be used, and I'm opting for the normal machine gun on Terminids because it has a pretty good damage and larger magazine size than the heavy machine gun, and it doesn't take 10 years to reload. And for the automatons, I'll be using the heavy machine gun because I'll need the extra damage, and the reload time doesn't matter as much since I shouldn't be getting swarmed. Now that I explained everything, let's get to demonstrating the power of this kit. The adjudicator surprised me in the fact that it actually has a slight stagger mechanic to it, so especially when shooting the brood commanders, it absolutely decimates them. And let me be clear, you technically do full damage to the squishy parts of Terminids, like the sack of the spewers for example, but do not fall for this trap. You will waste all your ammo trying to kill one dang insect, and it's really not worth it. For Terminids, only shoot for headshots with this weapon if you're trying to maximize the damage and minimize rounds wasted. But switch this weapon up with your machine gun for larger groups and honestly you'll be an absolute unit. Except when it comes to chargers and bile titans. Those are not going to be a fun time for you. Although it's very possible, it's not a fun time. Throw your rocket pods and run for the hills, because without an EAT or a Quasar or a 500 kilogram, it's very, very rough. Though, if you are trying to do the impossible, use the rocket pods to blow off the armor and full send the fleshy openings to get some good damage and kills. Don't forget to change the RPMs to max on the machine gun and maximize your damage output because you're not going to get a lot of chances to attack if you're constantly getting piled on by tank class enemies with this build. Just letting you know. I did use the flamethrower instead, and although it works, I didn't enjoy it as much as the machine guns, but you do you, the supply backpack is great for either choice. Onto the automatons, you're going to want to make sure that you have a deployable shield so you can not only reload your heavy machine gun, but also shoot straight at your enemies for extended periods of time. As you'll need to kill these bots effectively, go for the joints with the heavy machine gun if you can, as that will be your best option, or maximize the zoom on your adjudicator and start hitting some headshots. It's actually pretty easy when you get the hang of it, and utilize cover like you would in playing COD, and you'll definitely be able to thin the herd. And because technically the adjudicator is also a scout weapon, long-range engagements are very possible and satisfying to pull off. But if a bit of sniping doesn't interest you, grab some stun grenades and rush Hulk batteries with the adjudicator for a quick guerrilla warfare tactics. I have to say, when all these very unconventional weapons and stratagems came together for me, creating an actual fun and new combat experience, it was a great feeling of not only accomplishment but pride, because as I've said in my other videos, it's not like some weapons and stratagems are unusable. It's just that they require more thought and commitment to making them viable. Even if they won't be the strongest weapon, like against Terminids, these weapons were not great, I'm not gonna lie. But it could complete a mission with a squad just fine and not feel like I was being a hindrance or a liability to the team. Speaking of, I also tried out the HMG turret against the Terminids for this class, and it definitely works well against small and medium targets with great covering fire, but it doesn't do anything against tanks and chargers. So I ended up not using it for the majority of my gameplay, though it was fun setting it up in choke points and just going to town on some bugs. So there, I hope you found some inspiration from this to go out and try new things. Experiment with underutilized weapons and stratagems. Add grenades, secondaries, change your armor if you want. Go create something only for you. And see what you can come up with. Helldivers 2 is just not about finding the best weapons or the best stratagems. It's not about who gets the most kills or who survives last. It's about building a kit that can play a functional role on a team. Even if you're not going to be the main character, a supporting role is also viable and appreciated. Don't get caught up doing the same thing over and over, or you will get burnt out. Join me, have some fun, test some weird stuff, and laugh off the failures. Well, this turned into a longer video than I originally planned it out to be, but nevertheless, I hope you all enjoyed it and found it entertaining at least, or enlightening at most. If you did like this content though, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.